What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, your number station for anything and everything mission, including a boy genius whose ego gets him in trouble, as well as TV and movies. I'm your host, Jackson Small. Still working on it, sorry. Welcome back to May Blast, and welcome to another 2 episodes, but this time, 2 great episodes, including one that might just be my favorite episode of the entire season so far. So needless to say, we do have a good bit to talk about this time. So strap yourselves in for another pretty long and extensive video. Let's start with Time is Money. So, in this episode, Jimmy hears about an infinite encyclopedia subscription, and after his mom tells him no because it's $500, that's when Hugh tells Jimmy the story about how he almost invested in McSpanky's, the super popular burger joint, and how that would have made him wealthy, but he ended up turning it down last minute for something else that we find out later in the episode. And after hearing this, Jimmy takes the time booth, along with Carl and Sheen, because I guess he didn't want to go alone, to the past to then convince past Hugh to invest in McSpanky's. That way, they're all rich. And once he does that, he realizes that it's not all it's cracked up to be and makes sure to change everything back. And that's when we find out at the end of the episode that Hugh spent that last money that he had at the time and invested it into an engagement ring for Jimmy's mom, Judy. Which gives it a really nice, sweet ending about, family being invaluable and how family can't be replaced with money. Now, it's definitely not out of the ordinary for an animated show to do an episode about the dangers of wealth. I mean, we've had this 1,000 times before in 1,000 other shows. However, I think that this one does enough where it's a very unique take on it. For one, Jimmy time travels back to the 70s, so we see Hugh and Judy in a very, very different style than they are now, which is already fascinating. And then we see how wealth immediately changes them into, well, bigots, for lack of a better term. And seeing Jimmy come to that realization pretty much all on his own, it is really nice. And even though it doesn't really get much of a climax per se, because they do most of it in just a montage off screen to change everything back to normal, once it is everything back to normal, it has a really, really sweet ending. So, what are my highlights for this episode? Well, I got a few. First one is a visual gag, which is Hugh with an afro. It is so big, it is so over the top, and it perfectly represents that 70s style in every way that you could possibly imagine. Not to mention seeing it on Hugh of all people is really funny. Not to mention he does talk in 70s lingo, making it even funnier. Highlight 2, Hilgo the servant. This is the housemaid servant thing that is hired by the rich version of Hugh and Judy to clean the house and also escort Jimmy where he needs to go because they couldn't be bothered to even interact with their son. Like, that is sad, but the fact that it's a super giant muscular woman that's their servant, it is a cliche, but it's a pretty funny cliche. And finally is the ending. It's such a sweet, sweet moment that perfectly brings not only the moral into the episode into a very natural way that doesn't feel like it's being bashed in your skull with a sledgehammer, but it also does a great job bringing the entire episode's story full circle. It's just a really sweet, wonderful, very well written scene. And that's pretty much it. All we have left now is some trivia. This episode, while airing after The Big Pinch, formally introduces the time booth, meaning it's set before it. Like I said, I did the best I could to get the most complete listing that I could. There's still going to be mistakes, because this show's episode listing and syndication order is all out of whack. This is the first appearance of Hilgo, which has me thinking we may or may not see her again. During the scene, 15 years in the past, a pendant light fixture hangs near a zebra skin chair and the Neutron's shelf of albums. This light fixture remains in the same spot besides the stairs throughout many other present-day episodes, despite the rest of the room being largely remodeled since, showing that it's a piece of nostalgia that even Hugh and Judy can't seem to let go of. Which is nice. It does a good job humanizing their characters. Hugh comments about how he loves those three guys with the high-pitched female-type voices. He's talking about the Bee Gees. And no, it's not Bubble Guts, it was a band from back in the day. This episode gives a possible explanation as to why Hugh's father has never appeared in the series. We learn at the time Hugh's father needed money for a life-saving operation. Hugh, in the parallel universe, cold-heartedly declined to fund it, despite having more than enough money to do so. While in the actual universe, Hugh probably could not afford it, despite his far more kind-hearted demeanor. Thus, it's implied in this universe, Hugh's father never had any means of paying for the surgery and died. Thanks for that bit of depressing news. In Make Room for Daddy-O, a picture of baby Jimmy with Hugh wearing the same outfit and hairdo he'd had 15 years in the past is seen. Carl's line, "I always thought it was a song," was cut in the final animation after Sheen says, "Back I'll slay thee with my Medetta oblongata." Sorry, I can't do the voices. Rich Hugh exclaims on the phone, "He has 2 lungs, sell him for gosh sake." Yeah, showing how much they don't care because of wealth. Hugh and Judy have been living in the same house for at least 15 years, giving the house its own bit of character. When the boys go to the past, it resembles the 60s and 70s, which seems ironic since Retroville is supposed to resemble the 50s, as you can tell from the name of the town. And the fact that it takes place around present time, besides the 60s and 70s fashion being different. This would explain why hippies would exist in 1987 if this episode takes place in 2002 when it aired. Whole lot of confusing time stuff. This is the first episode where Cindy and Libby don't appear, because it's an episode that doesn't revolve the school in any way. This is the first episode to feature time travel. Again, it aired before the one we talked about last time. But like I said, I'm going off the most complete order that I could find, because I don't have the Shout Factory DVD, so I don't have that listing. Sorry. Ironically, in this episode, Jimmy, Goddard, Carl, and Sheen travel 15 years in the past, whereas in the Tomorrow Boys, they travel 15 years into the future. So it's like a weird mirror reflection. Had the Neutrons ordered the encyclopedia, the final volume would have arrived in December of 2021, based on the air date of September 2002. And of course, the moral, family is invaluable, which is a good moral for a kid's show. Yeah, I really have nothing but positive things to say about this episode. My only gripe is that it doesn't really have much of a final act because most of it is resolved off screen. But that's really just a nitpick. It's a really nice episode with a good moral and plenty of fun new jokes to boot. Final verdict for this episode is a strong and well-deserved 8 out of 10. I wish I could give it a 9, but because it lacks that final act, I can't really bring myself to give it that extra bump. Still an excellent episode. Highly recommend checking it out. Alright, you guys ready to talk about what I think is the best episode of the show that I've seen so far up to this point? Well, get ready, mateys. It's time for Raise the Oozy Scab. Yarr! Ahoy, mateys! Are you ready to take a look at what might just be the best Jimmy Neutron episode so far? One where Jimmy and friends go on a treasure hunt for a sunken pirate ship. Well, then swab that poop deck and prepare to set sail. Okay, I'm not doing the voice the whole time. But yeah, I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat on this one, guys. This might be my favorite episode of the show so far that I have reviewed. It is so funny. It is so enjoyable. It is so clever. It's so unique. It's just such an awesome freaking episode, and I'm so beyond excited to talk about it with you guys right now. So, let's discuss it. In another episode of Jimmy Needs to Prove Cindy Wrong About Something, and also because he gets stuck with Cindy as a lab partner because of circumstances, and Libby deciding to work with Brittany instead of Cindy, Jimmy decides to take Carl and Sheen, anyway, along with Cindy because Cindy crashes the whole thing, on a quest in his sub underwater to look for a sunken treasure chest, which is hidden in the shipwreck of the Oozy Scab. And after numerous fails of talking to fish and getting mutinied in his own ship, Cindy ends up immediately finding the treasure, but they end up getting confronted by a giant squid. So, reluctantly, Cindy gives them the okay to free Jimmy from his mutiny, and he manages to save them using his brain, as he always does. And that's when they finally communicate with the squid, and the squid gives them the treasure chest, only for it to be revealed that what was in the treasure was not treasure at all, meaning that Jimmy did all of that for nothing, even though he did get an A on his assignment. And the episode ends, as most do, with Cindy mocking him. Now, it is a simple plot, just going on a hunt for a buried treasure chest. We've seen this a dozen times in a dozen other shows. But what makes it so cool is that it's Jimmy Neutron that's doing it this time, which means we also get that science angle, and we get to see and learn a few things about underwater aquatic life. It is just so funny. Like, there are so many moments that I could pick as highlights here, and I ended up landing on 4. I think. 4? Yeah, 4. I ended up landing on 4 after a lot of careful deliberation, because honestly, there's so many funny moments that even just finding a list was difficult. First up is Sheen judging Cindy for doubting Jimmy. There he goes again. He has to complicate a perfectly good plan with his goofy, unnecessary invention. Sheen's response: "Oh, you're just jealous because Jimmy is a genius. Come on, Captain Ginny, show us your goofy, unnecessary invention." Sheen is just so funny. Like, there's a reason why he's the fan favorite character. He is ridiculously hilarious. Highlight 2. Carl talking about eating fish directly to a fish. Most of the episode, Carl is snacking on this snack made of fish, and he ends up taking a turn on this invention that Jimmy made so that they could talk to fish. And Carl, very nonchalantly, and without even realizing what he's saying and who he's saying it to, he talks about how good this fish snack is directly to another fish. I'm not going to say what that's supposed to be a joke of, because I'm going to get demonetized if I do. So I'll just say it is a very adult joke if you get it. Highlight 3, Jimmy gets locked in the brig. Not only is it funny because he gets mutinized on his own ship because of Carl and Sheen being so hungry that they just obey Cindy, but also that immediately after Jimmy gets sent to the brig, Cindy and the others immediately find the treasure. Because it literally proves the whole time that she knew exactly what she was doing, and Jimmy was just, being a big-headed egotist. And finally, highlight 4 is the ending. This had to be a highlight because it is a twist that even I didn't see coming, like, at all. So, what is in this treasure chest that they get from this sunken shipwreck after all this searching underwater? Well, it turns out to be saltwater taffy. I was expecting it to be like a reference to the plastic joke from SpongeBob, you know, in Arg when they find the treasure chest and then the Dutchman gives Krabs the plastic one. I was expecting something similar to that, but it's even funnier that it's saltwater taffy that's buried in a treasure chest that was underwater in a sunken shipwreck. It's something that you don't ever think they would put in there, but it is hilarious that that is what the ultimate treasure is, and Jimmy is so baffled that he bashes his head on the side of the chest in pure disbelief for the rest of the ending. It's so funny. But like I said, it is really difficult to even find highlights to highlight because there's so many great moments in this episode. It almost became flat out too many. That's how much I love this episode. It's so funny, it's so creative, it's so imaginative, it's so unique, and it's just so much fun to watch. So let's finish off with some trivia, and then I'll give this the high final verdict that it rightfully deserves. So, in this episode, none of Jimmy's inventions malfunction. That's a first. The episode's title comes from the 1980 film Raise the Titanic. This show is just full of cross-references. Despite the title, the Oozy Scab isn't raised out of water at all, just its treasure chest. But I don't blame them. It is a good enough title that it can pass, even though it's technically false advertising. Goddard, Hugh, and Judy don't appear in this episode. However, Judy was mentioned at some point. And coincidentally, this episode, along with I Dream of Jimmy, aired on Debbie Derryberry's birthday. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that one of the best episodes in the entire show, if not the best, I don't know. We'll see how it all pans out within a year or two when we go through the entire show. That this aired on the birthday of Jimmy's actual voice actress. That's really cool. Alright, and that is literally all I can say about this episode. Do I have any gripes with it whatsoever? Not really. I mean, I do think that the pacing gets a little bit wonky when they go underwater, but it's not to the point of even being noticeable. It's like barely even there. So, with all that said, I think Raise the Oozy Scab deserves a final verdict of a very high, very well deserved, and highest of the season so far, 10 out of 10. Yes, which means When Pants Attack has finally been dethroned. And man, it took a while to get here, but man, am I glad that we did. I only hope that we continue to find some more episodes that are up to this level of quality, because this was a straight up banger. I really enjoyed this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being one of my favorite pirate-themed episodes in the animation going forward. This one was so much fun to rediscover. Hey, just like Actual Treasure. Guess that brings it full circle. And that is all I can say about this episode, so thank you guys so much for watching both of these reviews. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. Feel free to hit the hype button to get this higher up in the algorithm if you so desire. You don't have to, it would just help the channel out. And of course, feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions on this episode, both these episodes, or Jimmy Neutron in general, in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for your time. I always appreciate you guys clicking on these reviews just to hear my opinions, even though I get a little scatterbrained. And I'll see you guys next time when we talk about another 2 episodes of Jimmy Neutron with I Dream of Jimmy and Jimmy on Ice. Until then, thanks for watching, and God bless, matey!